on, guys? This is Mr. Teej 66's Movie Reviews. I am Mr. Teej 66. Today is December 15th, 2018, and today marks the 40th anniversary of really the first superhero movie ever made, and one of the best, 1978's Superman, the movie. Now, really, the plot, I think pretty much everyone knows the story. Superman is sent to Earth from Krypton, which explodes. He grows up, and he encounters his first archenemy, Lex Luthor. He meets the love of his life, Lois Lane. It's really a pretty simple story. Now, this movie is going to seem dated to a lot of the younger people, especially those raised on the Avengers and the MCU and, all the other DC films. But I think that's why I like it so much. It's very charming. It's very retro and old-fashioned. Even in its dialogue delivery, it's incredibly cornball. I mean, there's absolutely no question about it. There's some really cheesy lines. Has that area of like a 70s disaster movie, but it works. If you really go with it, it's a fun time. Christopher Reeve, I mean, is there anything I can possibly say? He is Superman. Well, 3 other actors have played him, or maybe 4 have played Superman since. And none of them have ever come close, and never ever will. The way he plays Clark Kent is brilliant too. It's this, bumbling idiot who's just completely unsure of himself, and it gives it a plausibility to it because, you believe that no one would think this guy was Superman. In some of the other films, even in the comics, he just walks around and acts normal as Clark Kent, and you're like, how does no one see that? He even changes his voice in this movie, a little higher pitch, and it just works beautifully. And as Superman, he's both bland and, kind of a generic nice guy, but I always see the twinkle in Christopher Reeve's eye when he plays the part. It's this little wink like that, yeah, I know, I'm a complete dork and this is way too good to be true, but just go with me, people. Just take this ride with me, and I absolutely do, and I miss him so much as Superman. I wish he could have played him 100 times, but it wasn't to be, but God, rest in peace, Chris. You will never be forgotten. Everyone else is very good, too, although Reeve really just stands head and shoulders above everyone else. Margot Kidder, who recently passed away, rest in peace as well, is a great Lois Lane, just feisty, just ballsy. The way she is with Clark Kent is just great. I love their dialogue together, and I love when she's around Superman, she becomes this, swooing, cooing, like, oh, Superman, you're so wonderful, because, she's really a ballsy reporter, but, to see her melt like that is just great. Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. I love Gene Hackman. He's gotten some flack for his performance in this film, but just his ego is just out of control. He has one of the biggest egos in movie history. Everything is about him, how great he is, but he's still, man, just opposed enough of a threat to Superman where you believe this guy is very intelligent and Superman should be careful. Marlon Brando was in this movie. Now, at the time, he was one of the biggest star in the world. He just done The Godfather, just won the Academy Award for it. And he got paid a record at the time, $2 million salary for 2 weeks worth of work playing Jor-El, Superman's father. He's been criticized for being kind of bland and generic, but I think it's appropriate because they're supposed to be an extraterrestrial, race, and they're higher than us. Their emotions are probably, more contained. So I think his kind of flat delivery kind of works for the character. Others say no, but I always thought he was great. Some great supporting actors. Glenn Ford, who was a very famous Western actor, I believe, in the 50s and 60s, plays Pa Kent, Superman's adopted father, and he is freaking awesome. He's basically only in 2 scenes in the film, but he gives them such life and depth that, like, when he, spoiler warning, when he dies, it's heartbreaking. And we've barely gotten to know the guy, but it just gets me every time. The movie is basically 3 movies in one. The first 20 minutes of the Krypton stuff, and that's basically, very cold, very sterile. Everyone speaks in, like, quasi-Shakespearean dialogue. The second half, which is after Clark lands in Smallville, is basically sort of a Norman Rockwell Americana kind of vibe to it. And the third half of it, or the last hour or so, is pure comic strip, just bright colors, wacky one-liners, adventure, romance, daring do, and It shouldn't work, but I think another big part of this movie, another big, contributing factor to this awesomeness of this movie is director Richard Donner. He is fantastic. When he took the job, the original script he was given was, very, very campy, very silly, and he went, "No, we have to take this seriously. This is a part of Americana, and it has to be respected." And you feel it in every frame of this film. There is humor. But unlike later films, it doesn't get so ridiculous and so overblown that it becomes, annoying. Like there's a gag, but then Donner will cut just as it gets a little too silly. Like there's a scene where Superman stops a guy who's climbing up a wall. I think he's supposed to be a burglar. I always thought that was supposed to be a nod to Spider-Man. I don't know if that was the intention, but he's got these magnets on. He's climbing up the side of a wall, and Superman stops him and goes, "Excuse me, is something wrong with the elevator?" Ah! The guy falls down. Superman whooshes down, grabs him. There's a guy inside the office, and Superman grabs the guy and flies out of screen. The guy looks back and goes, "Nah." But then it cuts. That's it. That's the entire gag. If it had been made by some of the people who made the later films, the burglar would have fallen through, I don't know, glass windows or into a fruit stand. I don't know, some stupid slapstick like that, and it just wouldn't have worked very well. The special effects are, yes, of course, they're dated as hell. A lot of the younger viewers are going to laugh at them. It's very obvious he's pasted against a background. And, there's some animation effects, but you have to give him respect. This is a lot of craft that went into this movie, and it sort of reinforces the fact that it's a fantasy. There's nothing real going on here. It's about a guy who can fly around, shoot laser beams out of his eyes. It's kind of goofy, but the movie takes itself seriously enough. So if you can go along with, the dated visuals, I think it's part of the charm and fun. Krypton looks awesome. It is it's a crystal. Basically it's a big crystal, because they couldn't go with the Art Deco sort of look of the original comics, which would have been technically probably impossible or much harder to do, but production designer John Barry, who unfortunately died shortly after this film came out, does, a fantastic job. I also love the scenes in Smallville have a very painter, Norman Rockwell painting sort of vibe to it. It's a beautiful film all around. It has real heart and soul. How Superman's, he can't, he can't interfere in human history. Well, I have to give a shout out to the to the time warp sequence. That is one of the biggest flaws of the movie. It just feels like, wait a minute. Basically, Superman flies around the Earth and reverses time at the end, which I won't spoil why, but everything goes back. It's well, wait a minute. If he can do that, he can just do that all the time and stop everything. It's a little cheesy. My only other complaint is Ned Beatty in the film. He plays Lex Luthor's sort of bumbling sidekick. Some of his shtick gets a little old. Some of it's funny, but some of it feels like it belongs in a different movie. He's supposed to be the comic relief, but kind of annoying. But that's really about it. I mean, there's some of the flying scenes you can actually see some of the wires as they're going into and out of shot. Especially on this Blu-ray I have, it's very obvious. But still, this is an absolute classic. Younger viewers, give it a chance. It's corny, but it's of a different time. But it's not as action-packed as the Avengers. He doesn't punch anybody. There's no supervillain. Although in the second film there's three villains. The three villains from Krypton, which hopefully I'll get into that movie someday. But this movie is easily a 9.5. It's a blast. You should absolutely check it out if you're into old school superhero movies. Anyway, that's it for this week, and I'll see you next time for Mr. Teej 66's movie reviews.